it all before, but you are the love of my life. I knew when you came through the door that you are the love of my life. Nothing's hard, everything is easy with you around. No bombards, everything is easy when you come around. Hold on now.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing amazing and really well. I'm going to be playing around with my paper and fabric today, and it's the start of a new little series called Layer by Layer, where we go through all of our layers of scraps, of fabric scraps, textiles, and paper that we have lying around everywhere, especially now where I can't go out and buy new supplies. I want to shop my stash, and I want to go around my studio and see all of the things that I have that I can create artwork with. So, for example, little pieces that you kept in bowls, make sure you take those out. I have little masking stickers, scraps from leftover projects, and even sentiments in here. This is my little textile box, one of them. I have, I think, 5 of these, and they're overflowing, but I love seeing them in my room. And I keep all of my scrap fabric in here. There's even a little bit of fabric washi in here, so you never know what you're gonna find. It honestly is like you're thrifting your own, little studio. And the pieces that I tend to find a lot of the time are leftover scraps from projects. I can't bear throwing them away. I love using little tiny pieces like this to create collages with, or even for using them in journals. Or even like this one, this little strip, hopefully you can see, it's a little strip of a textile that was really old and it's so lovely. I used this fabric to create little books for the Artist in Bloom journals that I created about a year ago, and I made little notebooks out of them, out of some French kind of diary pages. And I loved this fabric. I don't have much of it, or I think this was the last little bit that I had. And I have a little strip of it left over, so I wanted to save these little pieces because they're beautiful and they add a lot of contrast and interest to collages. Usually the scraps that are left over, I just pile them on top of each other and I tie them up with a little bit of cotton. And this way I can easily just kind of flip through it like a book and pick and choose. It's not the perfect system, but it's a system that works for me, as I can easily just flip through and see what fabrics I want to use. Like these little things, I call them my little lace tacos because they look like a little taco. My mom would make taco dorados, which is like little fried like tortillas, and you put chicken or potatoes or anything inside of them. And they reminded me of her little tacos. So this is some linen and lace. So my little linen and lace tacos are also in my box. So you can see the tiniest little pieces are in here. I also keep really pretty embroidered trims in here. So it's just a little menagerie of textiles in this little box. And I want to use these precious pieces and I want to create art with it. I'm really inspired to just sit down and create, not necessarily creating a whole journal, not creating a full project, just creating individual pieces of art that can be put inside of your journal. Very similar to my deconstructed journal pages. I also have papers. This is an antique envelope that has letters, I believe. I'm not sure they're from 1928. That is so cool. The paper feels like linen. So I also have some beautiful letters that I can tear apart and use to collage. And of course, I have, just like I have fabric scraps, I have paper scraps. And you'll notice a lot of these papers are left over from our paper bloom packs that we love to create for all of you. There is a mix of like modern and vintage papers and some really old antique papers. Like this is some French paper from a magazine that I have. And of course, a ton of little wallpaper scraps. Like look at this. This, I was about to toss it and throw it in the trash. And I might. I don't know. I feel really bad. But they're so cute. It's little hearts. I cut out little scalloped hearts to include in the paper bloom packs. But you can still see some flowers peeking through here. And I want to rescue them. I feel bad throwing them away. So we're going to rescue them and we're going to give them a little makeover. And this little wallpaper also, I shouldn't feel bad because I created this into a digital so I can always print it out and use it time and time again. But it touches my heart because this is artwork. For me, this is artwork. French paper is artwork. People created this years ago. I created this last week. This is all really valuable, and if you're like me and you see the value in paper and fabric, we create our art using them, and it's a really therapeutic and lovely process. I'm going to be creating some lovely little art pieces. We're going to be working layer by layer, and you'll be getting some tips for collaging, how to use antique papers, mixing them with modern papers, and how to use all of your textiles that you have lying around, either vintage, antique, or modern. Now, if you don't have any antique papers or any vintage ephemera, but you have digital papers that you can print out, definitely use those as well. Like this is this a digital? No, this is real. This goes in my little pile over here, but like this paper, for instance, this is some French receipt paper from a digital in my shop. It looks like a real piece of paper from the 1900s, so you can use digitals as well. And if you mix your modern digital papers that, replicate vintage or antique pieces, and you pair them with real pieces, they look really beautiful. So definitely use digitals if you have those on hand. I love that nowadays you don't have to rely on just going to your flea market or thrift store to find beautiful pieces. You can definitely purchase things online. There's so many amazing digital creators out there. So definitely look around or shop your own little stash that you already have printed. Like I have this whole box is full to the brim of my printables since I do test printing to make sure they're really great quality. Creating your artwork layer by layer can be a little bit intimidating when you see the final product, but when I take you through the steps and you see how individual pieces of paper and textiles can be layered and collaged together, you'll become a lot more comfortable creating really lovely collages this way. So the first thing is you want to use a base. I like choosing my bigger paper scraps as my bases. Depending on how big you want your paper artworks to be, you can make them really small or really big. And I like to just go with what I have with my scraps. I'm not using anything new for this project. So I have this little piece of an album, which is going to be my first base. And I think I'm going to leave it just as it is. I would normally trim it, but I really like this size. It reminds me of a traveler's notebook, and I think it does fit a traveler's notebook pretty well. So I'm going to leave the size as is. So if you're creating artwork to go inside of a journal, like for example this little one here, make sure your paper artworks are the size of your journal so that you can put them on top or within the pages. So definitely keep that in mind. You then want to choose the papers that you want to use to cover up your base. I suggest starting a little bit bigger and then using your smaller scraps to fill in the naked pieces that are still showing your base. So I'm using some French ephemera and then a scrap of some music paper. And thankfully it fits just right. Usually I have to trim something off. And I also have little pieces of an antique letter. And then I also went through my little wallpaper scraps, and this is some Italian paper. And this is a little snippet of some wallpaper. And I just loved how part of it's cut off. I think it gives it a quirky little element. And I have this really beautiful Italian paper. It's textured. And I'm deciding if I should use it or if it would be too much blue. But I think we need to include a little bit of blue, maybe adding it right here. Or that would probably be a little bit too much. Maybe I can just add it on the side. I really like how that looks. Since we need some color over here, we can continue using that same color palette for adding our textiles. I have this little strip of some French, feels like a grain sack, kind of like a flour bag or like a grain bag. Really lovely. And I love how it's already cut imperfectly. That's really sweet. And I think it needs some lace, which will not be a problem to find. I have these 3 pieces. Hopefully you can see them. I'll put them on my hand so that you can see them a lot better. But when you're deciding what kind of lace you want to use, you definitely want to take into account how much you want to cover up. Like this would be lovely to put right around in this corner, but I think it's a little bit too big. I don't want to take the focal point from the lovely little design. I could add this little lace. However, I think my heart is set on this one. This one is stunning. Really lovely. Really pretty. I love that. You can decide if you want to pass this through your sewing machine and stitch individually or stitch around. I usually like to stitch until the very end, as I like to do a combination of decorative stitching. I think I want to add a little pop of color. This really lovely little scallop piece of floral fabric. I think I'm going to add this here at the top and then flip it over and glue the rest on the back. I think I want to use this one. This one's really lovely. This one says, a person needs 3 things: to be happy, someone to love, something to do, and to have hope. I'm going to use this lovely little sentiment. Now my trick with the sentiments, this is from my shop, instead of just gluing it down like this, which you can do, I like to cut it into pieces to kind of create my own sentence, if you will. You can also mix and match and include other sentiments in there. I need to see where I want to place it. Should I start it here and then continue it over here? Or does that look a little wonky? I think that looks wonky. I think I should probably start it here. I love that. That's really sweet. And then I could just pass this through my sewing machine if I wanted to stitch it. I'm going to use my favorite little glue stick, my Oohoo stick, and I'm going to just glue it on. Now I am going to be stitching it on later, so it doesn't matter if it's not completely adhered. That's fine. If you are simply relying on your glue, you do want to make sure that you use a really nice adhesive. And this glue stick is honestly like my holy grail of glue sticks. I'm so happy that I found it. The first glue stick that I bought was from a thrift store for like $1, and then until I ran out, I realized how expensive these little glue sticks are. They're pretty pricey, and I think they're more easily found in Europe, not so much North America. So I had a little bit of trouble, but if you go on Amazon, you can buy a pack of 2 for I think $10 to $11, which is kind of pricey when it comes to glue stick, but it's really worth the money. I made sure to stock up, so I bought about 3 sets, so I think I'm set for these next couple of months. I just wanted to make sure I didn't run out of glue stick. I really love this idea. You use your scraps in an artistic way, and you give them purpose. This is the first one that's pretty much finished as of now, and let's start on the second one. The second piece is probably going to be made out of this lovely little cardstock. This is some mixed media cardstock. I think this is used for chalk pastels. Now with this one, I could use this little scrap piece, which fits, I think, perfectly. And then here up at the top, perhaps we could use some of this scrapbook paper. That would be really lovely. I don't want to cover up the entire piece of paper because I do enjoy the lovely color of the paper itself. I think I might do this. I'm gonna grab my trusty ruler here. I lost my vintage ruler, which is really sad. But this ruler, since it's metal, it cuts the paper perfectly. So I'm going to glue that there. And then I'm going to add my music paper here on the bottom. So let me go ahead and use my glue stick. And this is a perfect way to add layers. You have one piece of paper, but then you layer on other pieces of paper to kind of extend it. This is exactly how I feel when I put like little clogs on. My mother, for my birthday, she bought me these beautiful Swedish clogs. But it's a really lovely brand, and they do the cutest little clogs in a really modern way. I feel like this piece of paper when I wear them. I'm extending the length of my body to appear longer. There we go. So he's nice and set. So super easy. You've extended your base to make a bigger collage. I have this piece of embossed paper. That is darling. Embossed paper, it's like my kryptonite. I can't with embossed paper. That and antique wallpapers, they're my weakness. I can't resist them. They're so lovely. Kind of like that there for some reason. We'll see. That's a maybe. We don't know yet. We could go monotoned and just stick to those lovely browns. Oh my gosh, this one looks stunning. This is a definite yes. Made up my mind. See, told you, it's my kryptonite. I can't compete with this. This is so lovely. See, I wanted to add my wallpaper here, but I'm covering up my music note, and I really love my music notes. Like this in particular. Maybe it's because I played the viola when I was little, but music notes, for some reason, when they first start, it really like gives me a warm, comfy feeling. More than this, more than like the actual song, it's the beginning of it, like the little music notes. So I think we're gonna add the wallpaper there. Ooh, this is pretty too. This is so cute as well, this little piece of wallpaper. See how I can't say no? I think I need some vintage ephemera here, like some handwriting or a little French receipt, a little snippet of a French receipt. Ooh, that looks so pretty. Let's see here. Definitely handwriting. Oh yeah. Should we do that one or... See, this is when it starts becoming... Oh, there we go. This one. This one's already cut to size. I wanted something small. I didn't want it to take up the whole lot. Perhaps there. I like that there. Perfect. It's like we're creating a little paper puzzle. A really lovely paper puzzle. So I think that's pretty good for our paper layers. Now I think we need to use some fabric layers. I really like this fabric. I really love how this looks. I need to add something either here or up at the top. No, definitely in the bottom. We need some color in the bottom. So I'm just going to cut a little piece off. Kind of messy. Definitely not perfect, and I just like to pull apart some of the edges to fray it a little bit. There we go, and I think I want some lace. Why does that looks really pretty right there. Ooh, why does that look so pretty? This is calling to me. This is some antique linen, or a piece of a linen that I cut off. And do you see that really sweet little silhouette at the bottom? These little peaks? I think it outlines whatever you put under it. It makes it pop even more. Like even here at the top. Oh, that looks so pretty. Hold on a second. It looks like a little tower. Oh, I really like that. I think I like it more up at the top than on the side, since we already have this here on the side. So now that my whole little lace piece has glue adhered to it, I'm going to place that right where I need it to be, flip it over, and then glue it here on the back. And you can even see on this textile piece, you can see where the person was doing their own little hand sewing. I'll show you all of these pieces close up later, but you'll see that. And I think This is amazing! Oh, I love this. We're going to do the last one together, and then I think I'm going to be doing this until the sun goes down. I'm having too much fun, and I honestly need to stop because I need to make lunch. I haven't made lunch yet, which is a problem because my stomach is growling as we speak, which is not fun. That's not good. Alright, I think we're going to use this little piece of paper, a piece from a poetry book, like a Middle Eastern poetry book, and I'm going to use one of my digitals this time. I think we're going to use this part as I love the typewriter font here. So I'm just going to take my ruler and rip. Save this little piece for later for more paper artworks. And you see how my digital extends the base? We're going to keep it. We're going to extend it just like we did with the other base. I'm going to just cut a little part of some of my embossed paper. This was also left over from our paper bloom packs. Thank you so much to all of you who have supported our provisions in our paper bloom packs. I always am so cheerful when I get messages or I see your lovely reviews. It makes me so happy that you love our little provisions of paper and fabric. Ooh, I really love this little piece right there. I definitely want to use this textile piece. This fabric is stunning. I think I want to add a little bit of this fabric to give it a little pop of color. Alright, I'm just going to add the fabric right along here. I have this little scrap piece of paper and then one of my sentiments, and I just want to see where this would be better placed. You definitely want to play around with where you place your final little pieces so that you see a bit of the design, but it's not covering up any of the French. And then taking our sentiment and gluing it right up at the top. And then this way I don't cover up that beautiful script from the French paper. So that is the final little piece of this little trio that we created, layering paper and fabrics together. I couldn't be more in love with this project. I used up my little pieces of scraps and lace and fabrics as well as papers. I still have a lot to go. I have a long way to go, but this is something that is super relaxing, very therapeutic, and really beautiful. And these pieces, these three together, are their own individual little artwork, and then I'm definitely going to be adding some mixed media to it and stitching, and then it'll be completely finished. So I think what I'm going to do is the next layer by layer video that I will be sharing with you all, probably in a couple of weeks, I will show you all of the finished pieces that I created, and then we start a new set. So I think that's really fun. I love these. I'd love to put this just in my journal. They're basically journaling pages. You can journal on the back. You can definitely back them up with tea stains paper or fabric if you wanted to. This one I think I'll leave it as is because I can do journaling on the back. This is so lovely. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this project, and if you did, definitely message me, send me a picture, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see what you're creating. And of course, until next time, I hope that you guys have an incredible day full of peace and love, and I hope that this video gave you inspiration and brought you some happiness and joy. I can't wait to share the finished result with you all. So until next time, bye-bye and have an amazing day.